Hey, welcome to the Hired AV Podcast. My name is Joe Way, and I am your host. And boy, do we have a good one for you today. And I can say that because I have a quasi-professional podcaster on.
Quasi being the key word.
Quasi-professional. Well, I don't even give myself quasi. I'm just doing it so long that I can make it up along the way. And then people go, oh, you're so good. I'm like, literally, I just make this stuff up. But I did get my intro right today. And after having a couple months off, I kind of screwed it up the last few times. I did get it right. But so everybody knows there's certain people who do this all the time. And obviously, you all are probably a big fan of AV Superfriends. And you realize there's some people that should have been on the show 100 ago. And then you go, wait a minute, how does this, have I not invited this person not too long? So there we go. Marc, welcome to the show. Please tell people who you are and what you do.
Well, Joe, pleasure to be here. I am Marc Cholewczynski, currently the Associate Director of Academic Technology for Oregon State University and the vocal critic on AV Superfriends of all things the other half of the show.
You vocal criticized my mic too when we jumped on the on here originally too.
Well, I was expecting. I'm like, I feel like I should hear a different version of you, Joe. And I think, and the one we're hearing now, that everybody's hearing on the show, is the one you want to hear. But I was not hearing that one, so I had grown accustomed to hearing you in a different way. And I was not experiencing that. So it's all about the experience. And so I want to make sure that your fans are hearing the most accurate representation of your voice. And for those who don't know Joe outside of this, he sounds completely different. You're hearing so much processing on this that it's like absolutely not what Joe sounds like. So
yeah, that is true. That is true. Because if people actually heard my real voice, they would never listen to the show. But what's weird, it didn't change in my ears, but it changed for you. So there we go. That's the beauty of going through software.
Yep, software driven, right? That's the whole point. What else do? I do the podcast that you mentioned. I'm heading up a team at Oregon State that involves like all things technical and dangerous, broadcast, design, innovation, things of that nature. I work with the Classrooms group. I do not own the Classrooms group in any way, but I dream up wacky things for them to do, and they try it, and it either works or it doesn't, and we try something different, right? And so and we try to have really good, clean standards that we can scale out. But I do enjoy working with the staff that wants to try to solve weird problems in the AV and broadcast and technology and all enterprise level riddles, what to say, communication riddles and what that means. And, I love diving into that higher level conversation. And, when we're not doing that, we're working with the AV Superfriends and kind of bringing that narrative to you all. And you guys can maybe play along at home and know my trials and tribulations and things I'm just crazy enough to try. And then if it works, we spread it out and I look even crazier. So.
All right, so there's a lot to unpack there.
There's a lot to unpack.
I'm going to go back to one of the things you said that you don't own the Classroom group, yet you do stuff and try stuff. Yeah. So what does that? I don't want to say show us your org structure, and please share your org structure because that's the quality content people come for. But explain how that works.
So I came up through the ranks through Classrooms, right? And so I came out of that organization. I work for Academic Technologies, which is comprised of Classrooms, surprise, Technical Services, which is my immediate group, Media Services, and Learning Platform, right? So those are the pillars of success that hold up the big tent of academic technology. Because I came out of Classrooms, I kind of worked on a lot of design, deployment, standards, kind of support and maintenance, all that. So I had a natural alignment to do that. There was retirement. My, at the time, director said, hey, you're doing great work there, but I really would love to see you in this other technical role that's going to be exposed to a bunch of other stuff and mysteries. I'm going to put you in there and keep doing what you're doing, but then just spread that knowledge over more. And so the technical services group, I work hand in hand. I'm kind of like make sure that the Classroom group has quality tools and has supportable infrastructure and systems. At the same time, Media Services has supportable infrastructure, is compatible, and it all works with our learning platform. It's all part of our enterprise. So I get to kind of peer over those silos of excellence and kind of keep everybody moving in the same direction. And in that work, I've been able to be kind of the point of contact for a lot of consulting for campuses when people are like, I need something, I need to figure something out, or we're going to have a capital project. That means what's it going to cost? How many things we need to put in the wall? How are we going to scale this? So myself and Don DeMello, we kind of co-manage and help that Classroom group. And then other things he helps my side with for like deployment and kind of project management and the like. So it's very symbiotic. It's a very flattened organization, but I feel like we're all working really well together. And it only makes sense when you like have to look at it on the org chart, but we're really just a big giant integration team that's responsible for like production and dreaming up big ideas.
Yeah, no, I love that because, you know, one of the things that when people ask me, especially newer staff, you know, career advice, what I do, one of the things I always point them to is learn everything your area impacts, right? Often we see with AV people is they're very good at being in their silo. They're very good at their point of view, and to be able to step out and say, okay, like you made the point of how does it work with the LMS? How does what we do work with XYZ? And I think that's really an important skill. So kind of give that little bit of advice or whatever. And how do you handle that with the teams to make sure they can continue? And how do you bring that skill to them?
Yeah. So for me, when I bring on even new staff, even students, like I really don't care what it is that you claim you're really good at. I really want folks to come in that have a general curiosity, right? Are you curious of how this technology works? And do you have like a low bias for action? Are you willing to jump in, get your hands dirty and figure it out and like pull that thread and let that entire sweater unravel on you? Like, and if you're cool with that and you're curious how that all goes together, and then when you get to the end of that box, you want to know what's on the other side of that box? Like, so it's a philosophy of how we go about it. But stepping out of like the mechanical role and looking at it from a higher level org, I don't think any of us can be completely successful just in our own little boxes, right? If, and like you said, AV folks typically can just be really good at doing that one thing. And I think there's a lot of industries that are similar to that, but is that the totality of like the learning experience? No, it's not, right? And so is that solving the big mysteries at the CIO level and the higher levels of the organization? Probably not. Are you contributing to like some success? Yes, you are. But I would also venture a guess that student success is just not big displays and hearing things in a classroom. There's much more going on there that I want to make sure that all of our team are exposed to all that. They understand how it rolls up into the larger mission and vision of the university. And sometimes like our PDs and all the things that you don't necessarily see it. Maybe you'll see the rubber stamped version on the top of your PD, but you won't really understand why putting this technology in X, Y, or Z is contributing to an experience and really bringing folks down. It's like, okay, we're doing this because we're going to do this for the student experience. It's going to mean they have access to technology. It's going to have, you know, common services so we can scale. So we're removing all that cognitive overhead from faculty. So really making sure we draw the lines from like front of the line all the way up to the top. And so I love those kinds of conversations. I love diving into it. Like, why do we choose the things we choose? Like, what does it mean? How is it solving our problems? And how is it moving the needle forward for the organization? And so there's a lot going on.
I love that. And I love that when you say here, why do you choose the things you choose? One of the things that people if you follow classroom designs and stuff, y'all are famous for a little like classroom in the round thingy and all that stuff. How do you guys now, how do you take like saying, trust me, I've hosted a show before. I can make a question.
We'll get there.
I will make a question out of this. But how do you go from that, hey, typical cookie cutter to saying, you know what, let's do a little bit of crazy. And what can that mean? And what does it look like to take that through your leadership and all and lead a project like that and kind of guide? What goes behind that?
So always choose good leaders. Right. So it starts there is that, you know, you do have control of that. And sometimes that's just engaging. Right. And so we were engaged at the right place, right time, academic technology, when we started this project for the Learning Innovation Center. And to take a harebrained idea like a classroom in the round, really, it wasn't that crazy of an idea. It had been done for years and years. Like go back to like classical Greeks and Romans, that they're round spaces. So it worked. So we knew that this had been done. And the larger question from registrars, like, hey, we need to pack like a lot of people in a very small amount of space. What's the most efficient way to do that? Well, we can't put them in a bubble, but we can put them in a round space. And so what does that look like? And so we did all kinds of crazy pieces and sketched up all these different charrettes, but we had champions, people who are like, I think I could do that. If you're willing to let me think differently about how I teach this class, then I'm willing to like take on whatever this is going to mean. Right. So we found those champions early on that were willing to like think holistically different. And it's like everything from like, hey, you're going to wear this like helmet mounted camera and you're going to walk around. It's going to be a ghost hunter style stuff in here. Like it was everything. We threw everything at the wall when we were kind of thinking about what it would mean. But that's not the way we went. And the craziest part about it is everybody just wanted to try it. Everybody's like, well, where can I try something like this? And so we mocked it, right? We got like a big ballroom and like put out a bunch of chairs and put some displays on like carts around the room. I said, well, this is what it's going to feel like sitting in the middle of 600 people in the round with your back towards somebody at all times. What do you think? And gave them some just basic presentation technology, nothing radical, just, plumb it, HDMI out, and it was fine. And overwhelmingly, they're all like, I really love this. However, everybody I work with is going to hate this. That was the same result every single one of the instructors said. And so it was fascinating that they felt that we were meeting their needs, but there's no way we were going to meet everybody else's needs. And so kind of the story is like, try something, like don't wait for it to be perfect. And I think we kind of carry that culture, like come to the table with an idea and we'll help you. We will help you try to see if it's functionally capable at all. And foster a culture that allows people to come forward with ideas, if it's our staff or it's people in society. I think we got a little bit of that trickles all the way up in our organizations, that we do want to make sure that we are unearthing and exploring all the crazy ideas. Like today it may sound crazy, but tomorrow it might be the way we're doing it. And so going and taking the philosophy of like, hey, we know we can't just do the same thing over and over again. We're going to have to do something innovative, and let's do it. Let's do something striking. Let's take a chance. We did hedge it, right? Underneath the floors in the space, it's all foam core. And you're like, if this is an absolute failure, we can just tear this thin layer of concrete up and just turn it into regular classrooms, right?
Yeah.
So there was some hedge against it, but arguably it's one of the most popular classrooms on campus.
Yeah.
Because it's about the engagement. And that was what it was all about. How do we do it in a way that we're putting students no further than like 8 or 9 rows back? I can have a conversation, just like you and I have a conversation today. And what's the impact? And it's been amazing, right? It sparked a whole bunch of research. We have the geometry of learning. A lot of publications have happened. And you know how research is, like getting through all of the different loops and hoops you have to go through to be able to publish about student data. So it was clean to the point where we can say we have done no academic harm. I can't say, yes, more students are getting A's or B's or whatever it is, but we have less dropouts. We have more engagement. We have a lot of anecdotal evidence there where students say they feel like they're heard more. We've done some like actual kind of exit interviews with staff and students in the spaces. And overwhelmingly, they're like, yeah, it's an amazing room, to the point where they show their parents, like when they're graduating or like when they're thinking about coming to campus. It's a stop on a tour, right?
Yeah.
Like how many classrooms do you have that students want to like show their students or show their parents, that come look at this unique classroom that I have. Like, so it was a good chance. And I feel like we just had the right leadership at the right time and the right problem to try to solve.
Yeah. I love that. So how do you now take that? Because in reality, you can't go do 1,000 of those, right? Because you still need the traditional thing. And of course, they take extra space, take extra money, all that stuff. But how do you take the data now to inform other types of learning or other types of, I'll throw a buzzword, active learning or whatever category y'all put that in, to then say, okay, do we do smaller? What takes the next step from there?
So in that process, we found that, well, not everybody's going to have a class of 600 people. Right? We don't have that many classes, like the Common Core, Back Core, whatever your equivalent may be. Those ones all qualify for that. But in those first couple terms, or even leading up to it, the term before, it was like, wow, we needed some smaller versions of this, because we have some classes that are like sub 200 that really want to be in that space. And so it really, like in the 11th hour, when the building was being designed, we like shoehorned in another small version of a round room that accommodates 200 less. And that one's probably the most popular because it's common class sizes. It's much more approachable. It's
intimate,
yeah. And we've found through all of the unique spaces that we've done that the oddball spaces scale down better than they scale up, right? When you're creating some unique experience, we find that intimate approach tends to work a lot better when we start talking about student engagement. Really, how are we interacting with students? How are faculty interacting with students? Because I think at scale, you kind of lose time, right? You kind of, the faculty will lose access to students if they're trying to keep all these people involved. And so you kind of wash out, right? And so I've seen some radical, massive active learning spaces. I'm like, I would be scared to own such a thing, let alone teach in it. And so we've just had better luck kind of taking these crazy ideas and then paring them back a little bit and giving registrar, like, here's a unique piece to have in your quiver if you have a really good syllabus or curriculum that wants to have a small space to try something unique and boutique or maybe bespoke, like we have that, and that's part of your quiver. So
I love that. I love that. So one of the things I am a big AV Superfriends fan. Does that make me an AV super fan? I guess.
Probably. I mean, you got a coin. Jeez, I mean, there's not many coins out there. So.
Hey, I'm off and on. I turn on your live streams.
I know. I try to call you out every time. Everybody else is like, we don't want to talk to that guy. He's just up to no good, trolling us.
Well, a little bit. No. Hey, you know what? I do. Every Friday at 12 Pacific. So
or whenever Chris throws me under the bus to be on. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But one of the things I love about it is you often agree with me. See,
yes.
So kind of, the circling around everything that kind of came out, that was what, 5-6 years ago? It's probably been a while now.
Like
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm redoing the room right now as we speak, like literally.
So where do you go now? We've had I was on, talking about my cloud solutions, et cetera. You go that way. Where I don't want to throw where's the industry going? All right, but okay. Where are you now?
Yeah. So as of late, people probably hear the Super Friends and myself. Maybe you're picking up a thread that like I'm dabbling in like Teams rooms and room-based scenarios and that whole gamut of craziness. And I would say it was through process of one, like somebody asked you to do something like from high up. You're like, hey, I really want you guys to explore this. Sometimes you can't say no, right? And so when it comes from on high, you have to kind of go that way. And I had an opportunity to pilot what Teams Room would look like in a learning environment, right? And so from Microsoft themselves, like, hey, we really want you to do the same kind of philosophy that you've done through some of your non-traditional spaces and let us know how this product would potentially work. And every integrator we called had like the same approach. So we just extend a bunch of USBs around and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, we're not going to do that. That's not what we're going to do. And so we went down the road of thinking about more holistically automated spaces. What does it mean to challenge our AV staff to kind of buck that trend at like, oh, it all starts with the press? Does it? Does it start with the press? And what makes you so sure that it does? And really understand why. And I think that's looking at kind of the programming industry, I think teaches people that right out the gate. Oh, it starts with a button press. So we pick that up and it's a cultural phenomenon in AV. That's not necessarily true. And so I challenged our staff, like, well, let's rethink it. What can we do? If our goal is service delivery, right? It's not things, it's service delivery. How do we provide access to service? And the provost who comes in and says, I want AI there. You're going to put AI in the classroom. How are you going to do it? And I'm not saying open a website with AI on it and do parlor tricks. That's not what I'm talking about. And so it's, what does it mean to take a holistic view of your data ecosystem for teaching, learning, and engagement and align that and make it AI ready and then put that into a classroom? And that was how we looked at our Teams room environment. So how do we put Copilot in the room? How do we take our SharePoint infrastructure that exists around a classroom experience and make that accessible and parse that and bring that data so that it is real time as a thought partner in a classroom? Yep. And so we went down that road and took a lot of chances in our sandbox environment and challenged our AV programmers. Like, I don't want you, there's no touch panels. You're not going to get a touch panel. You're not going to get a button panel. That's not how we're going to do this. I want to look at the endpoints as they are. What can we do from feedbacks? What can we automate? What questions can we assume that we know the answers for? And what can we stop asking the instructors to have to do? Yeah. Like, do we have to have an instructor turn something on? Don't know. Do we have to tell them to turn it off? If one of our big complaints is they get the projectors on all the time, well, let's just remove that, make that not a problem anymore, right? How do we automate those things? And so I think looking at my crystal ball, the AV industry becomes less about audio and visual and becomes more about automation and virtualization. Yeah. We're going to change the terms of AV. So how do we automate and create experiences around that? And that's kind of what we're looking at, is that you've heard me talk even as much as last week or whenever this comes out, that, I'm going out on a limb and saying, I don't think AV over IP is as big of a phenomenon in the future as we may think it is. I think it's where a lot of energy is being focused, but I think there's a byproduct of that. I think we're going to get more connected infrastructure to put smarter endpoints out there. And I think we'll be focusing more on how that kind of full stack environment creates the overall experience, because those are things that excite me, right? And it's like working with NVIDIA on campus now with some projects and partnering, and like, how are we leveraging and leaning into AI? What does it mean for a wholesale cross-organization change of data? And I don't look at our classrooms as destinations. They are contributing to the data ecosystem, right? How are we bringing data in for our usage? How are people moving in those environments? How are our environments responding to that? And so I think AV has a front row seat to that conversation because we are intimately aware of the infrastructure in each one of these learning spaces. And so in how to integrate into those environments, we certainly play with transducers all the time. We know how to kind of take analog environments and make ones and zeros at them. So I think we're aligned really well to be in that conversation. But I don't think it's about just making big images on displays and in just accessible audio in spaces anymore. I think we can do that, but that's very like layer 1, layer 2. I think we can be a little bit higher up the stack than that. So it's challenging ourselves, right? Challenging ourselves to rethink what it means and just to be in a more connected kind of, whether it be cloud or just enterprise level, and don't just stop at making images and distributing audio. There's more to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you. Those were wise words, everybody. And you should rewind the last 2 minutes and listen to that whole thing over again because it was very wise. But I think one of the things is, AV to me is the eyes, ears, and voice of AI and automation,
Absolutely.
right?
100%.
We are that end node, that thing that can do everything, that can pull it all together, and completely agree about automation. But not only that, when I sit there and think, okay, what we're doing with our pilot program and bringing everything and doing cloud-based control and connectivity, when I shared this with my peers and talking about all these different systems that we were planning on connecting, from building management to security to this and that, it was amazing how they all basically DM'd me and went, oh, we're going to need to be talking because that hits my area and that hits my area and that hits my area. And think how many years we've always talked about AV being the little siloed people in the basement that, and this completely flips the deck on that and goes, everywhere we can give a voice or, some sensory aspect to pull that in. And I think that's really the key, where we are actually well positioned if we get out of that old mindset.
We have to move. We have to move. We have to adapt, right? And so, and that's how you kind of keep yourself from just being a commodity skill. Like, you have to adapt and take on these new identities and challenge ourselves. Don't get me wrong. People that make good careers out of hanging projectors and putting displays up and audio and speakers, and there's a spot for that. It is not the end of the equation. It is a piece and it is a part and a building block within this, but it is not the end of the story.
Yep, absolutely. So what are your words too? Because here's what I hear when I led a lunch and learn, it was probably 6 months ago on AV over IP, like you said, that it's this and that. But there is still, I was surprised, half the attendees were still, I'm never throwing this thing on my network. Like, it's still, I'm going to direct run HDMI or even encoder decoder from laptop to projector, and that's as far as I will take it.
Okay.
What do you say to those people? Besides, okay, you do you.
So no, it's fine. And I understand some of the things that I say may sound absolutely blasphemous, and it's not for everybody. And your organization size may vary, but people are going to be scratching and clawing their way up that Gartner curve to get there. I ask you this question: how are you contributing to a more innovative and engaging experience for your students? How are you doing it? How are you doing something different that the school down the road from you is doing? And why should a student come to your space versus going there? Right? And understanding that if you're just doing the same old thing, somebody once said, what is it? Student preferences will drive outcomes. Somebody on this show, I believe, had said that at some point, in that their preferences are going to drive that. And I don't care what school you're at. Somewhere in your mission right now, it's going to say, well, we have to increase enrollment, and we have to just, you are vying for a dwindling pot of resources.
Absolutely. Yep.
And so why would a student choose to come to your institution? And when they tour there with their parents, how are you going to knock their socks off and show them an experience that is transformative, that they cannot get down the road? And just hanging a projector up and just putting some speakers in a room, it's necessary in some spots, but I don't think it's moving the needle in innovation.
Yep, 100%. And what's interesting is, even more important with that, we've been talking about the enrollment cliff that's coming. Well, we're what, year 2 of it now? We're in it.
We are all in it.
And now, then you add the insecurities of federal funding, right? You
Absolutely.
add the idea that people don't think they need a college degree anymore. And the fact is, you probably don't, right? To get there's a move back to trades. So you take all these factors. That is where we used to say, and I know we almost all of us have said this at one point or another. The AV is not going to bring someone to the school, but bad AV will keep someone away, or something along those lines. Yeah. But I don't think that's true. I think now, right along with what you just said, students are showing up and they want to know, how is this cell phone? How is my life interconnected across this campus, where classrooms is only 20%, but they want the same thing. They want, is my LMS accessible? Am I going there? Because what are we doing? We're turning all of our libraries into social spaces. We're turning our dining halls into social spaces, right? We're all doing that. So now that class experience or the study experience has to now translate to those, not just the four walls and a talking head, right? And that's where now AV has to come into that. Right?
And that's the fun conversation, right? Because you hear it all the time. You can go on any podcast, listen to anybody. Everybody wants to talk about the things they can't do. I can't do this on my network. Or I can't do this on network. That's the trigger word for me. Tell me that I can't do something, and I'm going to tell you, like, the opportunity to have a conversation or bring somebody else in, and let's get to the bottom of it, right? And so, what are you doing to remove friction, right? And you should not have like policy that means, oh, jump through all these hoops if you want to do that. Like, no, have really good like outcomes in advance. Like, what do we want to get to? What are we working towards? Like, what's the goal here? And then understand, are the stakeholders involved? Let's move, challenge ourselves. Just because something was a certain way last year, 10 years ago, yesterday, I don't care. It doesn't mean it can't be changed for tomorrow. If it means creating an amazing opportunity that makes a transformative experience. We have to make transformative experiences. And that if we're going to let some bygone written thing somewhere determine that, then we're not doing it right. I'll tell you right now, it's wrong. And so people often say, oh, I'm not organized that way. I can't do this. I will just go knock on people's doors and have conversations, send teams messages, whatever. And usually people are like, oh yeah, we should talk about this. What does it mean? I've found that most people do want to think outside the box. But it's our beliefs, our biases around kind of, oh, we'll get in trouble if I do that. Their network's the police. And it's like, well, put all that aside and zoom out. Are you moving the needle forward? Because universities are going to act like kind of startups in a weird way. Like we're going to have this burn rate, and your foundations are going to pay for something. And at a certain point in time, we're going to start like reducing and losing these funds. So how are you changing your university? How are you changing and being aware of what you do affecting their bottom line? How does it equate to experience, and what is it making it? How is it becoming more attractive? Right? So I think it's connected that way. And then if it weren't connected, we wouldn't be doing it. But just as you said, AV is kind of there as that connective tissue, and I think that's something that a lot of quote unquote AV folks need to lean into. You may be the bridge to your university IT. You may be the bridge to your faculty, and take that role on, take that identity and run with that, and kind of stretch your identity beyond just projectors, cables, and adapters, because I think every one of you are capable of doing it.
Yeah, totally agree. What's interesting is I think that we have an opportunity right now to not be that cost center, which is how people normally see us, but to actually be a return on investment.
Absolutely.
Right. And I think that is a change. And hopefully our institutions are recognizing that if we're doing a good job selling that. But one of the things I want to touch on that you kind of pointed out, like when people say, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do that. It's interesting that every time I've always thought you can't do X, Y, Z, the network, it's probably because they're not educated yet and to know how they can, but also when we did our pilot, kind of going back to, how all my peers wanted, kind of jumped in. What's interesting is the network people don't get a lot of the fun projects, right? They sit there, they pull cable, they get it. The LMS people don't get a lot of fun stuff. They only get when it all goes down. We have a tangible impact, right? The pictures of the classroom, the students there, bringing them in and saying, hey, we're doing this project. Let's do it together. We're going to all co-sign on this. This isn't the classroom group project. This is the classroom and network and LMS and this and that, right? Project and facilities project. And we're all going to co-sign this together and get credit. It's amazing how they'll come on. And when those little things come up, they're like, oh, don't worry, I got you. We're going to get this, because they're invested to have something that's not just, okay, we pulled you your 8 network drops and left the room. Right. And,
the problems are never as insurmountable as people think they are. right? And we believe these problems are larger than they often are, and that I do believe that most people want to solve and kind of create exception and do the things if it means being a part of something bigger, right? It's easy to do the things punch in, punch out every single day, but folks don't know how to tie themselves to like the bigger vision. Where do you take a chance? What do you do? And so I've kind of really grasped like the new research directive of the universities. And what does that mean? Like, well, everything we do is research focused. Like, it's not just for the pure researcher in the lab out there, but the operations of campus is research, and how are we contributing to that? And how does that change the way we choose tool sets? How does that change the way we choose capabilities of staff members, and how are we interested? And so it's a wholesale re-envisioning of how campuses work, because I think higher ed has to change, right? It has to change. We cannot wait for it to change. And so I'm deep into the book, The Innovator's Dilemma. I'm not sure if you kind of have checked that book. Where it's, I do believe the successes that AV has had through standardization and kind of rapid deployment of enterprise capability and AV over IP and building all that in there, like, can be the seeds of our own demise. If we continue to just do the same thing over and over and over and think it's going to just lead to success, I think we have another thing coming, because that very success you've had in deploying all that new debt that you put out there, you're going to have to account for that somewhere and take the positives away from it. And so, yes, we have a more connected environment to contribute to the data and research mission of the university, but don't end like, hey, AV over IP, we got the gold trophy, we're done. Like, no, you just put some really quality infrastructure out there to make sure that you are part of that conversation, and put yourself in those larger, like, cross-organizational exploration conversations, because that's where other parts of universities are going to find your value, because you'll come forward and say, oh yeah, we could do that, right? And so be a partner for those people you may not think you are partnering with, and learn something about the technologies you don't like. If nothing else you hear from me today, lean into something you think you hate from a technology. It was Teams Room for me, 100%. Hated it, didn't want anything to do with it. Believed everybody in AV hated it, whatever, maybe that true or false, but learned so much, Joe. I'm about to publish a whole article on what we found through Teams Room in higher education, and we learned so much about Mesh, Azure, all these different things, and that's where the cloud is. That's where AI, and that's where all that alignment is. And so what does that mean? To be able to take those experiences that I never would have had unless given the opportunity to dive into something I hate, to see it for what it's worth, bring it back and say, wow, that really forces me to think differently about our endpoints, our network, our security. All of these things are all part of the future story, right? And I think all of us are striving to create really capable time machines in our learning spaces. They're really good at looking backwards with a high level of fidelity, but they can reduce the time amount of research and time and how we actually come to conclusions and kind of create those wonder spaces. Like, that's what we're trying to do. So how are you contributing to that? And think of things through that lens and challenge yourself, stretch, learn new things, go unearth all the things, look under all the rocks and leaves, because in that thing you might hate the most, you will come away with something that's extremely valuable.
I absolutely love that. That is incredible advice. And I think that, there is a fear of a lot of people, and we see it all the time. We talk to our peers about kind of that. I'll even say it, like, I'm going to say imposter syndrome of I don't fit, but I'll tell you the best advice I can give is to learn all those things. Don't be afraid, because as you reach out, you become a trusted partner. Right? Even if it's not going to be your specialty, learn how your stuff connects and be able to go, okay, like I hate Teams Rooms, but we're all Zoom campus too. So difference, I don't need to. But as you get into and start learning all of the aspects of how that person's role, or if I bring this in, you're absolutely right, it changes the mentality of what we do and the possibilities what we can do. And that goes right back to what you said about, are we kind of bringing that added value? Are we pushing innovation and showing our value, right? And I think we're really primed for that as a vertical.
Sure. Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think it's so critical in that you may find something that you never knew that you're excited about, right? And if you're just doing the same thing over and over, like go find out something about data analytics or whatever it is. And to me, I'm always fascinated by what the adjacent, colleges are doing, and partnering with them, and it's like, wow, there's more to this than just making big images and big audio, and that, how do you do that experience? And it's been an amazing journey in the research side and the supercomputing piece and the AI piece now, and it's like, wow, that's where that is the piece that excites me, right? And it's not turning away from all the things we've come from, but I think there's opportunities that can be created for other people on their journeys, right? You don't have to be like a lead weight at the top of the organization that can't move. Like, there are other opportunities, like learn, be willing to adapt, and think that you can do something greater than you may be doing today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, I love this. This is a good conversation, but it is time to we have to go to the little rapid round. We got to start rolling the show. So rapid round. These are just fun questions with no right or wrong answer, unless I have an opinion of my own, in which case there might be a wrong answer.
All right. Let's hope for the best.
Everybody gets the same first question. Colleges are about tradition. What is your favorite college tradition?
My favorite college tradition is I think it's the game day early morning. Like, but see, I like it, but not necessarily for like the tailgating aspect. The tradition of like working behind the scenes of a game day production. We do a lot of broadcasts. Like, there's this, like, especially at the beginning of the season, we're going to kick it off this weekend for us, and there's just all that pre-stage, like, is it all going to go right? And then it all just goes, right? And so there's always that lead up, that first tradition of like, is everything going to be good? You're walking through all your systems, you're walking through all your planning, and you're seeing your teams doing their walkthrough, and just that tradition and like that annual, I don't want to say it's stress, but it's just that process of going through, and everybody's coming back to campus, and there's just this heightened level of awareness and buzz that everybody's a part of. And I just love being a part of that, like just really being there, but from behind the scenes, right? And being able in a supportive role to say, yes, let's build on that experience. So I love that tradition, that coming back.
Yes, that is one of the top answers. That is one of the popular ones, and so I will give that to you. That can be a correct answer.
Cool.
You got the first one, but it's interesting. I know.
I didn't realize this was as risky as it was. Okay.
Oh, it is, because if you disagree with me, then I'm going to let you know. All right. Well, then, all right. Well, since you brought up football, wait, it's the Pac what right now? Because it was the 12, then the 2.
There's like at least 2 that were there. I think they're up to like 8 or so.
Ish.
Yeah. And so we're looking forward. I can't divulge a lot of information on this show, but I'd say within a year you're going to see a different reemergence of the Pac-12. With a whole different level of network capability, a lot of different production capabilities, some different media alignments. I will say that you're going to see more of the schools in the Pac-12 taking a bigger ownership piece of that. So that's just a freebie of throwing it out there. So if you're listening to this and you are part of one of those alleged Pac-12 schools, you may hear from me, because we're going to want to understand what your capacity is.
I like that. So basically giving more ownership to the team. So the reason that USC and UCLA left, they're actually going to now give to everybody.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating, right?
So there you go. All right. Well, so next one, what's Oregon State's record going to be then?
We'll probably do surprisingly well. When I looked at the teams we're playing this year, I think we'll probably get at least 7 wins out of this whole thing, and a bowl berth of some form. And so,
all right. I will say though, I do think that Stanford and Cal need to come back to the Pac whatever. Like, to be
Stanford
in the
had a hard time last weekend. They didn't over in Hawaii. They must have enjoyed that trip a little much. So
yeah, and then there was
poor Andrew Luck.
Go that way. Then the rest of the year they're going the other way.
Yeah, there'll be a big consolidation of the mega super alignment conferences, and whatever happens. So
indeed. All right. So now my next, it's turning into a second question for everybody. I did kind of miss the NWMET or whatever that was hosted up at your school a year or two ago. But I love traveling to our different schools. So when I come up there, where are we going to eat? What are we drinking? Where are we going?
Where are we going to eat? What are we drinking? So we're probably going to do like a couple of the downtown spots. We'll do like a Block 15, which is like it's Americana food. It's a solid brewery. But then if I had my way, I'd probably take you out to a little winery self-town. Right.
Okay.
So it's like world-renowned Pinots, Thai Vineyard out there, great, huge 500-acre farm. I go out to the family, let the kids run around. It's amazing. You can bring your own stuff. So I'd have that catered. We'd go there, we'd have it catered out there. We'd do a picnic style. It'd be amazing down there, right? And so enjoy some of the fruits of the Willamette Valley. When we come back into town, we could do a couple small stops downtown. There's a lot of different establishments out there. I mentioned the Block 15. We had a couple of McMenamins for those in the Pacific Northwest. The McMenamins Fair. But then there's always like seemingly rotating set of restaurants and little spots down by the waterfront we could go through. We'd kind of walk our way through that, a gastro tour of sorts.
Okay, I like that. I kind of like the whole little picnic thing and get out there to the winery. All right, I like it. I like it. I need to come up. I don't know when the next
It's
event
like in the
is up
shadow of
there.
Mary's Peak right there. So it's beautiful. It's really like quintessential Willamette Valley. It's right there.
All right, I like that. I like that. I don't get wine very often as a answer, so I like it. All right. As a podcaster yourself and being on this show, what are your top 3 go-to podcasts? They don't have to be tech ones. What are the things where you go, this is my playlist and I can't miss them?
So I do a lot of audiobooks. That's an adjacent answer. So in the mornings, on the way to work, it's Audible. On the way home, it's podcast, right? And so I do the Breakdown podcast, which is a lot about crypto, a lot about blockchain on that. He does a really good recap. I'm a fantasy football nut, so I do a lot. I'm in lots of fantasy football leagues. So the Fantasy Footballers is always on heavy rotation. It's a really good podcast. I think production-wise, they bring a lot of value to the table. And then I will kind of every once in a while kick it out to it's like a business, a CIO talk. I can't even remember what it's called. It's like the CIO's perspective, just to find out what crazy ideas may be floating around from the top. That's kind of like the rotation, but usually it's more focused around like the Audible. I have a voracious kind of book appetite. I love having people read books to me. Okay.
All right. I've never been able to get into that. And I don't know why, but I just, it's one of the things.
It's amazing. I just have a crazy list that I'm constantly plowing through. And once you start, it becomes this addiction. And so you're like, oh, I really want to get through this. But then I find myself listening to everything at like 2x speed. So then when I hear something at normal rate, which is probably why I speak so fast. I'm so used to hearing folks speak at 2x that I just assume that's the way the world is. But yeah, then I listen to podcasts at normal speed and it's like painfully slow. So everything's 2x'd.
Okay, so are there like professional readers? Like, do you get the same readers for multiple books?
Yeah, well, it's all different, like hired in guns. Sometimes you'll get that special one where it's read by the author, and those are hit or miss, right? They can be good. It all depends on who it is. So,
all right. Next up, we're going to go to AV podcasts.
Let's get in
You're
there.
going to rank these 5 AV podcasts blindly without knowing which one is coming next.
Go. Okay.
All right.
So is this like, am I trying to match some like official ranking, or is this my ranking?
This is your ranking, ranking them blindly, not knowing which one is coming next.
Okay.
Okay. We're going to start with the classic, the AV week, AV Nation's AV week.
AV Nation AV week. I'm going to put that at right in the middle, 3.
Oh, you're just going to split it right there. Okay. Let's go Ryan Gray's AVIT amplifier.
Oh, I think Ryan's like, oh man. See, I want to put him over the edge. I'm going to boost him up. I'm going to put him at 2.
Oh, okay. All right. We already brought up Corey earlier. So how about the AV life now under Tim Benwart?
And so I think there's a rebirth afoot right there. I think there's some growth in their future. I'm going to put him at 4.
Okay. All right. I got to throw me in there.
Okay.
Higher at AV.
Oh man. So you're vying for either first or last is what you're going for right now. And so, oh man, because I don't know what that first one, and you know what? And since you can take it, I'm going to put you at 5.
I can take it. I'll take it. And I think you probably did all right because I left AV Superfriends for the last one.
There you go. Well, then I would switch it.
I actually had a list. I'm like, okay, which ones am I going to do? But I'll do the ones that all the OGs, every one that's had at least over 100.
There's so many now, and I feel like there's room for all of them. It's just I don't have time anymore, right? It's hard for me to like dive in and that's like the one time where maybe I don't want to go with a book. I'll throw something that's like I do. So I try to get like my mind right on the way into work. I want to get some perspective. I really want to get jazzed up, and that's kind of why I go for the book thing. So I really try to find things that are like, yes, let's build on that. Let me go in and terrorize everybody with crazy ideas. So I'm trying to find things that really bring that to the forefront.
Yeah, so. I totally agree with that. And actually, when I do try. There are a lot of AV podcasts, and I try to catch up with them. It's like why I listen to you all live because it's hard. It's like, hey, you know what? I can put it on the background and do emails, right? And it's there you go. And it's during a lunch hour.
It works.
But one of the things like I love when I listen to podcasts, I do listen to CIO podcasts or Harvard Business Review and those types of
They're
things
fascinating.
because it also gives me a perspective of what are my bosses thinking about, right? And just a different, it allows me to step out of AV for a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think when I go for that, like when I have that desire to like step outside, if it's not some like indulgent piece, like a fantasy football or like a blockchain development, like I'll listen to like Tim Ferriss, right? See who he's talking to, and like, does he have somebody interesting that I want to see? That's like, what kind of disruptor is he having at the table? And I was a big fan of the 4-hour work week. I think that was like really came through. Like, how do I automate my life? How do I automate all this stuff? And how do I bring that into my job? How do we do these things? I think, I think there's a lot of wisdom in there with some of the folks he brings to the table. So, seek perspective as much as you can. Bring it in at 2x speed.
At 2x speed, exactly. All right, last one. This one's so it's a little different because usually I say pretend you had a podcast, but you do. But here we go. So this you just get 1 minute.
Okay.
The show is yours. You may talk about anything you want. If you had your own show, but honestly, any topic that exists. 1 minute monologue, and your time starts now.
Folks, I want you to join me as I sit down with other prominent higher education leaders, and we talk about their biggest fears. What is it? Where's the disruption? Where are we seeing? How is this completely going to go off the rails? Everybody's afraid to talk about it, but I'm going to bring those leaders today live. We're going to talk. We're going to go basically conference by conference. We're going to find the lead pack, and we're going to find out what is keeping these leaders awake at night that they're not willing to show you in your quarterly plenary, or they're not going to give you in your annual report. We're going to find out what are they actually afraid of. And today we're going to start with UCLA.
Oh, that is good. And I'm afraid of failing. There we go. That's it. I hate failure more than anything on earth. That's why I drink a lot. No, and overwork. That's why people are like, how do you do so much? Because I'm afraid of it failing. So
but do you do the things that you're passionate about?
I do.
That's the key, right? And I get the same thing. Like, oh, you're doing so many things all the time. It's like, but I like to do the things I like to do.
Yeah, that's what my wife says. I'll never be able to retire.
Yeah.
She's like, you don't know how to
never be bored. There's no way.
Yep, absolutely. I love it. Great one. I like that one. Good show monologue. All right, and then actually the very, very, very last question and most important is how can people connect with you and get to know you? Should they?
The easiest way to get a hold of me, and it's simply because my last name is too hard to spell. So don't bother. It's Cholewczynski. If you really want, you could probably just spit a bunch of letters out there and it'll find it. But Marc at AV Superfriends is probably the path of least resistance to get a hold of me. If you want to heckle me, if you agree with what I'm saying, send it to me. If you don't like what I'm saying, send it to Chris at AV Superfriends because he takes that side of the equation. And you can also find me on LinkedIn as Marc Cholewczynski.
Awesome.
I'm out there.
And I will have your LinkedIn in the show notes. The 1 paragraph show notes. See, you all do great show notes. I just do so-and-so came on the show. We talked about stuff.
It's a whole thing. Whole thing. We'll have to get back on an actual, bring you in on a show and do the whole thing. Because now it's taken on a different life since maybe you've been the last. We go through what do you want the name to be? Guests get to name the show. And we have a whole tracking of different pieces and artwork. And it's a whole production now, Joe. We have 40,000 interns now.
Wait, I got the background music going, but I need to stop this. Because, see, have I actually been an episode of my
I don't
own?
know if you. I was just thinking. I'm not
Christmas
sure
one?
if you've been on all the adjacent ones, but it's never been today. The AV Superfriends are sitting down talking with Joe and his harebrained scream to connect every single classroom on campus through some cloud thing. You want to come on and talk about it?
I kind of you did the one from NW Med, individual-ish, but that was kind of a sit down and talk about the press. Yeah, I've never actually had one. I'm just the cameo whenever someone needs a
supporting actor for everybody else, holding us all up.
I'm a time filler.
Yeah.
There we go.
We'll bring you in. I think we got some good disruptor, some topics coming up. I think your voice will be needed in those conversations. I need somebody to play on my side.
I'm happy to. Thank you. That was great. I just invited myself. That's how you do it, people. You want to get on a show, just go in and say, how do I get on? And by the way, that is the secret for everyone. I always wonder, how do I get invited? No, you just literally say, I want to be on it. No. And the same for this show. You ever want to be on the show, be on the show. But anyway, everyone, thank you for listening. As you can find me at Josiah Way on all of the socials. And of course, make sure you follow at Hired AV and Hetma, of course, on all the socials. And as always, all the opinions expressed here, or none of them here, are of our respected institutions or sponsors or anyone who would like to sue us. Really, these are nothing. If you want to sue us, had nothing to do with you. That's it. And as always, if you did not like these opinions, there may be better ones next time. We'll see you all soon.